The person standing across the street. I noticed him the first night I stayed in my new apartment. Just a figure standing under the streetlight across the street, completely still, watching my building. I thought I imagined it. The next night, he was there again. Same spot, same posture, same distance. I tried convincing myself it was a neighbor, someone who always walked late. I watched him from the window for a while, but when I blinked, he was still there, not moving an inch, just standing, waiting. I couldn't tell what he was doing. I tried leaving the blinds closed the next night. That didn't stop him. I peeked through a crack, and there he was again, under the same streetlight, like he had been waiting. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he liked that spot. Maybe he wasn't even looking at me. But my gut told me otherwise. I started feeling uneasy. On the third night, I decided to record him with my phone from the window. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, but I could just make out features. Pale skin, sharp cheekbones, blank expression. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't sleep that night. Every little sound in the apartment made me jump. I kept checking the blinds. The next day, I asked a neighbor about him. They said they didn't recognize anyone matching that description. I even checked social media. Nothing. No one lived across the street. I started noticing small things during the day. Shadows where there shouldn't be any. Footsteps outside the building. Each night, I tried leaving earlier or later. It didn't matter. He was always there, under the same streetlight, at the same time, like he had memorized my schedule. I began taking pictures from my window. I could zoom in, but it didn't help. He wasn't blurry. The details were sharp. The fourth night, I opened the window slightly. I wanted to see if he was human. He didn't flinch, didn't react. Just stood there like a statue, staring at my apartment. I tried talking to him once. "Hey, can I help you?" No response, no movement, just stillness. I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't want to breathe too loudly. Over the next few nights, he got closer, the distance shrinking slowly, deliberately. The figure adjusted, always staying in view of my windows. Watching, waiting, learning. I started keeping my phone ready, recording every night, zooming in, trying to catch any movement. Perfectly still, silent, patient. Sometimes I imagined it disappearing, walking away, leaving me alone. But he never did. And that made it worse. When I moved around the apartment, the shadow in the streetlight shifted ever so slightly. It wasn't his body, but his presence. I realized he wasn't just standing there. He was observing, mapping, memorizing everything I did inside my apartment. Every movement, every routine. The seventh night, I tried leaving the front door unlocked to see if he would approach. He didn't. He didn't move. He just stood there, patient, watching from across the street. By the eighth night, I started hearing whispers outside my windows. At first, I thought it was the wind. I began sleeping with a baseball bat beside my bed. Every time I heard a faint footstep, I froze, heart pounding. Every shadow in the hallway became a threat. On the ninth night, I saw something in the reflection of the window. A figure in the room with me. I started covering the windows. Blackout curtains, no lights, nothing. Yet somehow, I knew he was still there. Watching, waiting, patiently. Always patient. I tried leaving the apartment during the day. Came back at night. Nothing changed. He always returned to that same spot under the streetlight, waiting for me to appear. I began feeling like I couldn't breathe. The anxiety, the constant watching, it started seeping into every part of my day. I couldn't focus. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I even tried recording video from inside the apartment. Nothing. Just a dark figure in the distance. Still, motionless, waiting, knowing, learning, learning, learning. just a dark figure in the distance. Still, motionless, waiting, knowing, learning. Nothing. One night, I caught movement in the corner of the streetlight. His arms bent wrong, almost unnatural, not quite human. I looked again. It disappeared, replaced by the still blank figure. The next morning, I went outside. No footprints. No one had walked there. The street was empty, normal, but I could still feel him, waiting, just beyond my vision. The stillness was the point, the uncertainty. I started sleeping in the living room, facing the windows, blinds closed, lights on, heart racing every time a shadow passed. It didn't help. Some nights, I hear soft footsteps on the sidewalk. I don't know why he's here. I don't know what he wants, but I know he hasn't left. I've stopped looking out the window when it's dark. How close will he get? And when will I finally realize he's not just across the street anymore? Someone is living in my house, and I have proof. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but something started happening in my apartment a few weeks ago that I can't explain. I didn't notice it at first, and I wish I had. The first time it happened, a kitchen cabinet I always keep closed was open when I came downstairs in the morning. It wasn't wide open, just slightly ajar, like someone had been careful about it. I stood there staring longer than I should have. Something about it felt wrong, even though I told myself it was probably just me forgetting. I always closed that cabinet, every single time. A couple days later, it happened again. Same cabinet, same slight opening. That's when doubt started creeping in, even though I didn't want to admit it. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Then one morning, a box of granola bars I left on the counter was missing. I remembered putting it there myself. No wrappers, no crumbs, nothing. And I live alone. I checked the garbage anyway. Empty. Nothing unusual, except my stomach twisting at the idea that someone might have been in my apartment without me knowing. A week passed. I tried to ignore it. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Maybe it was nothing. But my instincts didn't feel calm. Something was off, and I couldn't shake it. The next strange thing happened with my bedroom door. I always leave it open. Always. I never close it. But that morning, it was closed. Completely closed. I froze before opening it. Nothing in the room looked disturbed, but the air felt different. That used feeling you get in a room when someone has been there, even if nothing is moved. Then I noticed the attic hatch in the hallway ceiling. It had been slightly open, just a crack, and I was sure I hadn't touched it in months. Something was inside that shouldn't be. I grabbed a chair and slowly opened the attic hatch, expecting nothing. Boxes, insulation, dust, normal. But one of the boxes near the opening had been moved. I swear it had been untouched before. That's when I decided to get a small security camera, just a cheap one to monitor the kitchen and hallway while I was at work. I told myself I was overreacting, but I needed proof. The first 2 days of footage were normal. Empty house, nothing moving, no weird sounds. I even laughed at myself for being paranoid. Then, on the third day, it started again. At around 2 in the afternoon, the footage shows the attic hatch slowly moving. Just slightly, like something heavy was pushing it. Then the hatch opens enough for someone's hand to appear. The hand is pale and careful. Then a head slowly lowers through the opening. I paused the video and stared at the screen, my heart racing. Someone was in my house, in the middle of the day. The footage continues. They climb down into the kitchen quietly, almost gently. I watched every movement, noticing how calm they were, like they belonged there, and my stomach twisted in fear and disbelief. They go straight to the cabinet I always keep closed, open it carefully, take one granola bar, and climb back into the attic as if nothing happened. I replayed the video slowly, frame by frame, my hands shaking. They looked directly at the camera while taking the granola bar. It wasn't a glance. It was knowing, almost playful. I checked the footage again and again. Each time, it was the same. Calm, quiet movements. Total familiarity with my apartment. Every step deliberate and controlled. By the next day, I started noticing small things out of place that weren't on camera. A chair slightly moved. A book shifted. Just tiny details, but I could feel it around me. I began locking every door, double-checking windows, moving things around the apartment to see if they would change. Sometimes I think they knew I was watching. I could hear faint creaks above me in the attic, then silence. I didn't move for hours, just listening to every sound. Eventually, I fell asleep on the couch because I was too scared to sleep in my bedroom. When I woke up, the security camera footage had new clips. The clips showed them leaving the attic, moving around the living room, standing still, then disappearing. No trace. Nothing taken. Nothing destroyed. Just... Next day, footage showed the hatch moving first, then a shadow passing across the door. They were studying me now. I began leaving food in random places to see if anything was taken. Some of it disappeared overnight. Some remained untouched. There was no pattern, no explanation. One night, I left a bottle of water by the door. By morning, it had been moved to the middle of the kitchen. I stared at it for a long time, heart racing, not daring to touch it. I started recording audio in the hallways. Nothing at first. Then faint footsteps. Slow, soft, deliberate. Moving, not random. Someone was learning the layout of my home. I remember watching one clip and noticing the way they moved like they'd memorized everything. My bed, the cabinets, the camera. Every step precise, familiar. The final straw came when I checked footage at night and saw them sitting on the couch, completely still, facing the camera, watching, waiting. I shut everything down after that. No cameras, no lights. Just me, pretending I didn't notice, hoping they'd leave. But I know better. I know they've been here every day. Quietly, carefully, patiently. And they know I see them now. Sometimes I hear faint creaks at night, just enough to remind me I'm not alone. I can't sleep in the bedroom anymore. I can't leave the lights off. I live like a guest in my own home. The worst part is the look in the footage. Calm, curious, knowing they're learning, always learning. I don't know how long they'll stay. I don't know why they chose me. But every time I move, I feel them somewhere just beyond my sight. And every night I wonder, will I wake up tomorrow to find another clue that they've been here while I was asleep? The neighbor who knows too much. I first noticed him because he always stood on his porch at the exact same time every night. 3:12, never earlier, never later. He just watched. Always, quietly. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Maybe he had a routine. But something about the way he stared made my skin crawl, like he was memorizing every move I made. I tried ignoring it, looking away through my blinds. But his gaze never wavered. Even when I sat down on my couch, pretending not to see him, he stayed. One night, I left the window cracked. I wanted to hear normal street sounds, but I could hear his quiet breathing. Not human breathing. Slow, methodical, intentional. I began noticing little things out of place. My trash was slightly moved. A chair shifted overnight. Nothing major, nothing that could explain itself, but I knew he had been there. I left my lights on, tried to sleep, but shadows in the room seemed to stretch unnaturally, following me, twisting toward the window where he always waited, just beyond reach. I started recording him with my phone from the safety of my blinds. Zoomed in slowly, shaking hands. His face was pale, expressionless, but his eyes, they knew things no one should. 312 porch stare. I tried leaving earlier, later, even taking different routes in the house, nothing mattered. He always knew. The next evening, I noticed footprints in the dirt near his porch. Too fresh to be old, too precise to be accidental. And they led directly toward my yard. No reply, just the slow, deliberate tilt of his head. The stare intensified, as if he were assessing me. I began documenting every movement, every slight detail, how his hands rested on the railing, the way he adjusted his jacket, the subtle nods he gave at nothing. I left notes in my mailbox to see if he would respond. The next day, one note was gone. No footprints, no sign of entry. Just gone, like he had been inside without leaving a trace. I started sleeping with the door locked, blinds down, lights on. Every creak in the hallway felt like him moving silently, waiting for me to make a mistake. I tried asking neighbors about him. No one knew him. No one recognized him. No one had ever seen him leave the house, yet he was always on the porch. Always. One night, I heard the faintest sound of footsteps behind my bedroom door. My heart nearly stopped. I hadn't opened it. I couldn't open it. I just froze, listening. The next morning, small scratches appeared along my windowsill. Not deep, just deliberate. My name was etched faintly, almost invisible unless you looked closely. Someone had been close enough to touch. I began noticing signs that he was inside my home when I wasn't looking. Misplaced objects, faint dust trails, the smell of someone lingering in the air. Every time I stepped outside, even in daylight, I felt eyes on me. Not just from him, but everywhere. I couldn't tell if he moved or if I imagined it. I tried recording every night. Lights, camera, everything. But footage was always grainy where it mattered. Shadows seemed to obscure him deliberately, as if the camera refused to see. I stayed up one night, pretending to sleep, flashlight hidden. He appeared exactly at 3:12. Slowly, methodically, he moved closer to my window, never stepping off the porch. I watched him through a crack in the blinds. His eyes glowed faintly in the streetlight. Not normal reflection. Something unnatural in the way they followed me. I whispered to myself, trying to calm down, but the sound of my own voice made him tilt his head. He was listening, always assessing. I left small gifts outside my door to see if he would take them. The next morning, they were gone. No footprints, no signs of movement, just gone. I tried moving furniture around in my apartment to confuse him, but he never missed a beat. He always found the new vantage point, always standing at 3:12. One night, I left a window open slightly. He leaned forward, slowly, almost tasting the room. I could see the faintest smile on his pale lips. I began questioning my own mind. Maybe I was imagining it, but the footprints, scratches, missing items, all of it was real. Someone was here, watching, learning. I can feel it now, even as I type this. Shadows shift when I pass the windows. Every night, I hear subtle noises that don't belong, like someone pacing silently outside. I can't leave. I can't call the police. I can't explain it. He is always there at 3:12, waiting, patient, omnipresent, silent, watching. And every night I wonder, does he wait for me to leave the house? Or is he waiting for me to notice him fully? The tenant who wore my face. I first noticed it in the hallway mirror. The reflection didn't move when I did, just stared. Pale skin, hollow eyes, my own face smiling back at me. Too perfect, too wrong, like someone had sculpted it from my own features. When I reached my apartment, the reflection lingered in the glass of the door. It didn't follow me. It waited, patient, like it had memorized every detail. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the building sounded deliberate. Shadows moved at the corners of my vision, shapes bending just slightly too far. The next morning, a note slipped under my door. I like this face. Written in jagged, uneven letters. with something faintly sticky. My stomach dropped. I checked the hallway. Empty. No one in sight. But the smell of something warm and coppery lingered. Iron, blood, or something that reminded me of it. Later that day, I saw movement upstairs. A silhouette, slow, deliberate, hunched. It didn't run, didn't hide. Just watched me from the stairwell landing. I tried to convince myself it was a neighbor, a prank, anyone human. But the way the light caught the figure made its skin pale and featureless. Wrong. That night, I peered through the peephole. No one there, but the faintest scuff marks on the hallway carpet suggested someone had crouched outside my door, just waiting. The mirror in my apartment reflected nothing, but I felt eyes on me, weightless, moving across my reflection, like something breathing in the glass without being there. I started locking the door, then double locking it, then barricading it with chairs. It didn't matter. I could feel it learning, testing, finding weak points in my space. I left the lights on, the TV blaring, music playing, silence outside. Still, I could hear the faintest scratching against the door, nails dragging along wood, slow, deliberate. When I glanced in the kitchen window, I saw a shadow pass across the reflection. Not outside, behind me, or maybe inside. I spun around. Nothing. The next day, I found a small object on the floor, a shard of broken mirror, tiny, but with my exact eye carved into it. I didn't remember dropping anything. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. Every creak, every hum of the refrigerator felt amplified, like signals sent directly to it, marking my fear. One night, I caught it in the hallway. Not a shadow this time. Something crouched, hunched, human-shaped, moving impossibly fast, then stopping perfectly still, staring with my face. I could see the teeth now, too sharp, too thin, smiling like it had been practicing, learning, molding itself into the perfect mockery of me. The whispers began shortly after, soft, low, crawling along the walls, murmuring fragments. Mine, yours follow. Where? I couldn't tell if it was one voice or many. I tried covering mirrors, windows, anything reflective, but I still felt it watching, always in peripheral vision, lingering in the corners, reviewed the footage. Grainy, static-filled. Shadows moved unnaturally. The figure's face always blurry, except for the eyes, unmistakably mine. I tried leaving the apartment for a few hours, came back. Nothing had moved. Or had it? The air felt heavier, thicker, like someone had been breathing near me. Not broken, just displaced. Someone or something had been tracking them. The next night, I swore I saw it inside the apartment. Just for a second. A corner of the kitchen, crouched, staring, skin pale and smooth, face molded like mine. I screamed. Nothing responded, but the lights flickered. Shadows stretched toward me. I felt a hand brush my shoulder, cold, impossibly fast, leaving a faint sting. I barricaded myself in the bedroom, tried calling someone. Nothing. Phones dead. Wi-Fi dead. Electricity flickering. The building itself seemed to have grown silent, holding its breath. I left a flashlight on. Its beam caught the mirror across the room. The reflection moved wrong. My mouth opening wider than I could, eyes sharper, grinning. I realized it wasn't copying me. It wasn't following me. It was replacing me, learning the shape of my face, practicing the subtle tilt of my head, the way I breathed. I started hearing footsteps on the ceiling, the walls, beneath the floor. Not like a person walking, more like someone crawling, sliding, measuring me in silence. Every night, I could hear it whispering fragments of my name. Not exactly right, but close enough to make my heart stop. It was calling me to notice it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't hide. I could only watch. Mirrors, windows, reflective surfaces. Everywhere it might already exist. already waiting to become me. The last thing I remember before blacking out was the reflection in the kitchen window, smiling back at me. Not human, not me, something else entirely. And now, even as I write this, I can feel it standing behind me. Patient, waiting, practicing, always practicing.